Friday. The presidential election is a mere 52 days away, and it may seem that political commercials are popping up left and right as you're watching TV. And from reading your emails and tweets and Facebook messages, I know that some of you are annoyed at ads.
That's a nice word.
Mildly irritated.
Do you know, the emails that I get a little more
they're just
than annoyed.
You know, a little perturbed. So people sometimes look at ads and say, how can they lie?
Right.
And sometimes we see our own Pat Kessler doing reality checks on ads, and Pat will say, it's not true.
That is false.
Misleading or
say that.
false.
Right.
So if Pat stamps it false, Heather, why does the TV station run the ads?
Because if a candidate is in charge of the ad, if a candidate is buying the ad, we have to. The station has to. It's required by the FCC to run these ads. Now, there have been cases where some of the ads have been sort of graphic, and even in those cases, the FCC has come back and said, we cannot edit, we cannot change, we cannot alter, we cannot censor these ads if they are coming from the candidate committee.
So let's underscore the difference there, because it's sometimes confusing as a viewer, but there are some ads that come directly from a candidate. Those are the ads that end, I'm so-and-so and I approve this message.
Yes, correct.
So let's talk about the other ads, the ads that come from political action groups.
PACs or third parties, and those stations can choose not to run, but that's a very rare circumstance. So we brought up one that happened earlier this year in North Carolina. It was a Senate campaign. The group that was putting on the ad went and changed a couple of the words and then put that ad right back up after the TV station said, no, that's wrong. But ultimately, this comes down to, and the FCC has ruled on this, the courts have ruled on this, the idea of who decides what is an ad that should air and shouldn't. Should it be the television stations that decide? There's been issues with censorship.
Do you want our sales department to decide that stuff?
And so you have to really think hard about that, and that's why those rules were put in place for the candidate ads there, and that's what television stations look at. At the same time, we talked with a media ethics professor who said, look, we don't want to get into the business of censorship, but also it is incumbent on stations to do these sort of fact checks, these reality checks.
Right, which of course we do. But I think what some people maybe find irritating is that you have Facebook this year announcing that they're going to take a little more of an aggressive approach in the window closest to the election.
And Twitter as well.
And TV stations are not. And I don't know. I don't know what the right thing to do is. I understand the challenges here, because if you throw out a liberal ad, then, the left-wing viewers will say, well, you're biased against us. And if you throw out a right-wing ad, you have the same issues. So it's sort of a no-win situation. For sure.
And then the person, several of the people who sent in the questions to me had said, look, I may see this ad 17 million times, but I may not have caught Pat Kessler's reality check.
Yep.
So
you have to do the work.
Right. And so that's a tough one. Another quick question before we head to the next topic is a question that we get a lot is, how come we sometimes see our news, snippets of news in a commercial, in a political ad? And that's because they can just take that. It's a fair use issue. So those campaigns can take that straight from our news.
All right.
Yep.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.